You ever notice how quiet the world gets right before something goes missing? Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, like a breath being held, like the universe is tiptoeing around a secret, trying not to spill it too soon. That kind of silence, it's not peace. No, it's the sound of a storm sharpening its teeth. And when you feel it, when you know it, you don't ask questions. You just smile. Because some things aren't meant to be explained. They're meant to be experienced. The great illusion, permanence. People cling to each other like wet paper on skin, thinking that just because someone's been in your life for years, it means they're meant to be. That they've earned a permanent seat at your table. Funny, isn't it? How time tricks the mind into believing familiarity is loyalty. As if someone showing up day after day automatically makes them good for you. No. Time doesn't reveal truth. Pressure does, fire does, silence does. And when the lights go out, when the music stops, when you're bleeding and no one's clapping, that's when you see who is real and who's just playing dress up. Not everyone is meant to stay. That's not tragedy. That's design. The world runs on patterns, on balance, on quiet little exits that look like betrayal but feel like liberation. People like to pretend they're anchors, but anchors drag. They say, I'm here for you, but they mean, as long as you don't change. They feed on your light until they get full. Then suddenly they're tired of the taste. And still you beg them to stay. You twist, you bend, you shrink. All for a connection that's already expired. But here's the thing. Life doesn't remove people because they're finished. Life removes people because you are. You outgrow their chaos. You stop laughing at their cruelty. You stop explaining your worth like a broken record. And the moment you stop playing small to make them comfortable, oh, that's when it begins. The unraveling, the ghosting, the silence. First it stings, sure, but then something strange happens. You breathe, deeper, cleaner, like you've been holding your breath underwater and you didn't even know it. See, we were raised to fear loss, conditioned to believe that being alone is worse than being drained. So we keep them around. The leeches, the liars, the lovers of chaos. We tell ourselves, well, maybe I'm being dramatic, or they didn't mean it like that. And all the while your soul's screaming. But you hush it, because being abandoned feels like death. But darling, staying with the wrong people is death. It's just slower, quieter, with better lighting. They won't say goodbye. They'll just drift, fade, slip through your fingers like smoke. You'll try to chase them. You'll demand answers. But life doesn't do explanations. It just clears the stage. It wipes out the background noise so you can hear yourself again. And when they vanish, that's not punishment. That's preparation. A pruning of the dead branches so you can bloom. So you can finally step into rooms without dragging their shadows behind you. And here's the kicker, most of them were never with you to begin with. They were with the version of you that didn't know better. The one who tolerated, forgave, apologized for bleeding when someone else stabbed. You confused that with loyalty, but really it was survival. You wore masks so long you forgot what your real face looked like. Until one day the mask cracked, and they looked at you like a stranger. Because you were. Because healing turns you into someone your old life no longer recognizes. People panic when you grow. They panic when you smile without needing them. When you stop explaining. Your silence, stop chasing conversations that always left you empty. They say you've changed. Of course you have. That was the whole point. You were never meant to stay soft for people who only knew how to bite. You were never meant to shrink so they could stand taller. So when they leave, when the chairs go empty and the phone stops ringing, don't flinch. Don't rush to fill the space. That emptiness, it's sacred, it's yours, it's the void before the bloom. Because not everyone deserves front row seats to your evolution. Some were just there to hand you the mirror, to show you what you never want again, to break you just enough so you'd stop begging and start becoming. And if you listen closely, really closely, you'll hear it. That faint little laugh from the universe, not cruel, not mocking, just amused, because you finally saw the trick. Finally figured out the disappearing act wasn't yours. It was theirs. They were never here to stay. They were just part of the setup. And now the real act begins. You know what's funny? People always celebrate addition. Gaining things. Earning. Winning. Climbing up. More followers, more friends, more likes, more noise. Always chasing. Always stuffing their pockets with validation like it's candy. But no one cheers when something gets taken away, do they? No one throws a party when things get quieter, when people disappear, when the table suddenly has fewer chairs. They call it loss, tragedy, they scream at the sky, why me? But subtraction, oh subtraction is where your real magic hides. You think the universe is sloppy. Think it just accidentally removes things from your life. No, it's surgical. It's precise. It's a silent scalpel that cuts out what's poisoning you even when you swear it's medicine. You're begging to keep what's killing you, and the universe is just smirking because you still don't get it. You're holding on to dead weight and wondering why you're drowning. The universe doesn't add before it subtracts. Never has, never will. First it clears. First it strips. First it makes you empty. See, people love comfort. They'll wrap themselves in it like a blanket soaked in gasoline and still call it safety. They'll stay in friendships that rot, in habits that suffocate, in mindsets that decay. Why? Because it's familiar. Because we're taught to keep things, keep people, keep the pain. Smile through it, numb it down. Take a picture, filter the hell out of it. Pretend everything's fine. But deep down, some things don't belong. Some things were never meant to be permanent. They were borrowed, temporary, lessons with legs. But you treat it all like it's forever. So when the universe starts cleaning house, you panic, you fight it. You beg it to stop, as if keeping what broke you is somehow noble. But what if the subtraction is the blessing? What if the emptiness isn't a punishment, but a portal? What if the removal is actually the reward? You want a better life? You want peace? You want that glow everyone keeps talking about? Then guess what? Some things have to go. Some people have to go. Not later. Not eventually. Now. And the universe doesn't wait for your permission. It doesn't care about your nostalgia. It doesn't care how long you've known them or how many memories you've stuffed into the scrapbook. It cares about alignment, about vibration, about who you are becoming. And if they're not part of that, snip. And here's where it gets delicious: when you finally let go, when you stop trying to duct tape the broken pieces back together, when you stop pretending you can heal in the same place that broke you, something shifts. You feel lighter. Not at first. At first it feels like withdrawal, like losing a limb. But then the fog lifts. And you realize all the noise, all the drama, all the emotional taxes, they were never love. They were a trap dressed up as company. You don't need to carry people into your future just because they knew your past. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't have to keep repaying debt that was never yours. And if someone leaves while you're healing, that's not loss, that's clarity. That's the universe saying, let me show you who's really down for you. And spoiler alert, it's a much smaller list than you thought. They'll say you changed. They'll say you're cold now, distant, unreachable. Good. Let them. Because growth doesn't come with a group discount. This isn't a tour bus. It's a one-way ticket, first class, and guess what? Some of them didn't pack right. Some of them don't have the range. And the universe knew that, so it did what it had to do. It subtracted. It made space. It carved out the rot so something real could finally grow. So the next time someone vanishes, or a door slams, or the silence gets a little too loud, don't flinch. Don't run to fill the gap. Sit with it. Watch the pieces rearrange. Watch how the absence makes room for something you never knew you needed. Because while everyone else is obsessed with what's being added, the ones who really glow, the ones who truly evolve, They know the power's in what gets taken away first. Silence. Ah, what a beautiful little monster. Most people can't stand it. Makes their skin itch, their thoughts get louder, their smiles twitch at the corners. They'll do anything to avoid it. Turn up the music, scroll, call someone they don't even like. Just to kill the quiet, because deep down they know what's hiding in it. Truth. Real, raw, unfiltered truth. Not the kind you post, not the kind you dress up in affirmations. I'm talking about the kind that crawls out of the cracks when everything else goes still. You know the moment I'm talking about. When they stop calling. When the room that used to buzz with attention suddenly goes mute. You reach out, no reply. You laugh, no echo. You scream, still nothing. At first you think it's a mistake. A glitch. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe they're tired. Maybe you said something wrong. So you rewind the tape in your head again and again, trying to find the frame where it all changed. But the truth is, it didn't change. It revealed. Silence isn't absence. It's exposure. It's the great unmasking. You think you lost something, but really you just stopped pretending. See, people can play roles for years, whole decades, smiling in your face while sharpening knives behind your back, telling you they're proud while praying you fail. But silence, it's a lie detector. It shows you who was there for you and who was just there for the noise. When the claps die, down when the lights go off, who's left? That's the question. And most times the answer will make your stomach turn. But here's where it gets real twisted. In that silence, in that void, something ancient stirs. The part of you that doesn't need applause, that doesn't need to be liked, followed, understood. The part that's always been there, watching quietly while you begged for crumbs and called it connection. That part starts to speak. And what it says, oh, it's not sweet. It doesn't coddle. It doesn't care about how many followers you have or how well you played the game. It cares about one thing, truth. And truth, my dear, is brutal. You start remembering things differently. You replay conversations that didn't sit right. The laughs that felt too forced. The compliments laced with poison. And suddenly silence becomes a spotlight. Every fake hug, every backhanded joke, every moment you felt small around them, it all comes rushing back. You weren't crazy. You weren't overthinking. You were surrounded by noise that convinced you to doubt your own gut. But the silence, it confirms everything. Now you're standing in it. No distractions. No filters. Just you and the ghosts of every moment you ignored your own voice. And that's where power begins. Not in the crowd, not in the applause, in the stillness, in the ache, in the raw, holy discomfort of being alone, awake. Because you're not really alone, are you? You've just been emptied, purged, cleansed of the counterfeit connections. And for the first time in a long time, you can actually hear yourself. Not the version of you they tolerated, not the watered-down addition you became to keep the peace. The real you. The one who's been whispering beneath the noise all along. And now that the distractions are gone, that whisper becomes a roar. And oh, how dangerous you become once you realize you don't need the noise. Once you stop performing. Once you stop seeking approval from people who were only clapping because they were afraid of what you'd become without them. That's when it shifts. That's when the silence becomes your stage. That's when your solitude turns into strength. They'll come back, of course. When the silence starts to sing. When your glow gets too loud to ignore. They'll act like nothing happened. Like the quiet never screamed the truth. But you'll know. You'll remember. You'll smile with that same little curve they used to mistake for weakness. And you'll keep walking. Not out of anger, not out of pride, out of understanding, out of clarity, out of peace too expensive for their energy to afford. Because silence didn't break you. It built you. It peeled away the theater, the extras, the sound effects. And what's left is the real show. The kind that doesn't need an audience to be unforgettable. Everyone wants answers. Everyone's itching for a reason, a sign, a message in the madness. Why did they leave? What did I do wrong? What could I have said? Oh, the questions keep piling up like bodies under a collapsing circus tent. And yet, no one ever stops to consider maybe it's not about what you did, maybe it's about what they couldn't handle. Maybe the problem wasn't you breaking down. Maybe it was you breaking through. You know what people can't stand? Not failure. No, they love failure. It makes them feel better about their own stagnation. What they can't stand is transformation. You start shifting, glowing, asking questions they're not ready to answer. You begin to unlearn, unravel, rebuild, and suddenly they're squinting, like your light burns their eyes. It does, because you become a mirror and they don't like what's staring back. That's when the exodus begins. Quiet at first, a missed call, a delayed reply. Then it escalates. Distance, weird vibes, silence that screams. You think you're imagining it. You try harder. You explain, apologize, shrink, just to keep them, just to not lose what you thought was real. But what if I told you you're not losing anything? What if what's leaving was never yours to begin with? People attach themselves to who you were, not who you're becoming. They got close to your wounds, your cracks, your chaos. But now that you're healing, now that you're setting boundaries, now that you're asking for more, oh, they're uncomfortable. Because your growth demands they grow too. And not everyone's ready for that. Some people would rather sabotage your light than face their own shadows. So they go. Or maybe they get removed. That's the part they never tell you. The universe doesn't always ask for permission. Sometimes it yanks people right out of your storyline like a bad actor mid-scene. And it hurts, doesn't it? Because you had lines memorized, you had a future scripted, and suddenly rewrite, empty stage, silence. You mistake it for rejection, for betrayal. But no, it's just divine editing. The director saw the mismatch before you did. And you want to chase them, don't you? You want to explain, to fix, to make sense of it all. But what if I told you that clarity doesn't always come with closure? Sometimes you don't get a reason. Sometimes the apology never arrives. Sometimes the exit is the explanation, their absence. That's the message. That's the truth. And it's louder than any goodbye they could have muttered. But, oh, the mind won't let it go that easy. It'll replay the memories like a broken reel. Highlight every laugh, every promise, every smile that now feels like a lie. It wants to solve the puzzle, make the pain make sense. But healing, real healing begins when you stop trying to make sense of chaos, when you stop dressing up wounds as wisdom, when you look the lost dead in the eyes and say, I see you. I don't mean to understand you, but I won't be ruled by you. You think losing them is the end, but maybe it's the beginning. Maybe their exit made room for breath, for space, for stillness, so you can finally hear your own damn voice. The one you muted to keep theirs loud. The one you ignored because you thought connection meant sacrifice. But connection built on silence, on pretending, on one-sided effort, that's not love. That's performance. And you're done performing. So what now? Now you stop chasing ghosts. You stop writing chapters for people who closed your book. You stop reopening doors that the fire already claimed. And in the ashes, you find yourself, not the version they tolerated, not the edition you watered down to be digestible, the full, unedited, unapologetic masterpiece. That's what they couldn't handle. That's why they had to go. Not everyone gets to see the final act. Not everyone has the ticket to your next level. Some people were only meant for the rehearsal, for the rough draft, for the version of you that didn't know better. But now you do. Now you know what energy feels like when it's clean, when it's honest, when it's earned. And suddenly their absence doesn't sting, it liberates. Their exit doesn't break you, it confirms you've outgrown what once fit like a cage. You're not abandoned. You're being aligned, you're not alone. You're just finally not pretending anymore. Funny, isn't it, how people scream loyalty when the ship's cruising, but the moment it hits a little wave, they're jumping like rats with fancy excuses. They said forever. They said I got your back. They said I'd never leave. Oh, but when the lights dimmed and the confetti stopped falling, poof, gone, like they were never there. And there you stood, looking around heart in hand, wondering what just happened. Here's the joke, nothing happened. That was the plan. That's who they really were. The mask just fell off when the storm rolled in. People love potential. They get drunk on it. They look at you and see a story they want to be part of. Until your story gets messy. Until your glow makes them feel small. Until you start growing into someone they can't control, can't predict, can't fit in their little box of comfort. Then suddenly you're too much. Too intense, too ambitious, too real, and their loyalty, turns out it had fine print. Conditions, expiry dates. It's always the ones closest to, the ones you would have bled for, the ones you defended when they weren't even in the room, the ones you thought were different. They knew the most about you and used it to hit where it hurts most. Not always loud, no. Sometimes it's quiet betrayal, silence when they should have spoken, distance when you needed presence, laughter with your enemies, fake smiles while they watched you crumble, secretly enjoying every crack in your armor. You want to believe in the best of people, don't you? You give chance after chance. You explain the same pain in different ways, hoping this time they'll understand. But deep down, you knew, you just didn't want it to be true. So you held on, longer than you should have. But even rope burns teach you something. That holding on isn't always noble. Sometimes it's the very thing killing you. And when they leave, they always find a way to twist it. Make you the villain. Make it look like you changed. Because accountability, that's too heavy for fragile egos. So they rewrite the narrative. They play the victim. And you left with the silence, the questions, the aching rewind of every moment you ignored the signs. But maybe it's time to stop mourning people who were never meant to survive your evolution. Maybe it's time to thank the exit. See, when people leave, they make space for truth, for clarity, for new players who don't flinch when the real you walks in. And maybe that's what this season is about. Not loss, but exposure. You're not shedding people. You're shedding illusions, the fantasy you built around them, the roles they auditioned for but never had the range to play. And what's left? Just you, no safety net, no applause, just raw, unfiltered you. And here's the punchline: they thought you needed them. They thought without their presence you'd crumble. But absence, that's the real teacher. It shows you who you are without the noise, without the cheerleaders, without the codependency. It reveals the parts of you that still flinch, still seek approval, still beg to be seen. And in that lonely mirror, you meet your strength. Not the polished kind. The kind forged in betrayal and abandonment. In nights where sleep wouldn't come and silence was the only friend that didn't lie. You start building differently after that. Slower, smarter. You watch how people move when you have nothing to offer but truth. No perks, no spotlight, no mask, just you, and most can't handle it. That's fine. Let them leave. Open the door. Hell, hand them their shoes. Because anyone who can't love you in the shadows doesn't deserve front row seats when you shine. And don't waste energy trying to prove you're worth staying for. That's desperation dressed up as loyalty. Let your glow speak. Let your silence echo. Let your peace be the loudest revenge. 'Cause the real ones, they won't flinch when the ugly shows. They won't run when the fire starts. They'll bring water or they'll burn with you. That's the kind of loyalty you deserve. No masks, no conditions, just real. So the next time someone exits your life without warning, without reason, without a hint of the hurricane they'd leave behind, smile. Because not everyone is meant to walk with you into the next chapter. Some were just characters meant to teach you the value of you.